Go. This special city council meeting workshop is called to order.
I love it.
Item number one, we have public comments. We have one person on that. We'll wait until we bring up that subject if it gets in there. Number two, discussion regarding Liberty Lake improvements. Is that you, Officer Gibbs? Or? Yes, sir.
Good evening, council. Good to see you guys. I kind of just want to give you a small update very, very quickly about our progress, where we are, and then give you that update. 4 years ago, we decided, because of several different factors, to go ahead and dedicate a full-time officer to the lakes area. The goal was in reducing crime in Liberty Lake, and also in Guthrie Lake, but we wanted those places to become a destination location in the central Oklahoma region. So that took quite a bit of effort. In doing that, the first year we had many arrests, very heavy in arrests, because of different things going on out there. People were doing pretty much what they wanted to. The second year, there was a large increase in patrons because it was safer. The third year, we didn't expect this, but there was an exponential increase in patronage. And there should be some photos as you go through up here, and you can see how we go through 2013 and 2014. Currently, in 2014, we're seeing the most patronage that we've seen yet to date at this time. And so you'll see a lot of those will show June of last year and again June of this year, and you see the amount of cars. It's kind of hard to get a full picture of the amount of people out there, but if I can give you an idea of some pretty close estimates. We will run on a weekly basis during weekdays from about 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. We will maintain about 150 to 200 people within just the park area itself, just a very small park area. On weekends, we will maintain somewhere in the area of upwards of 300. It's interesting because in holiday weekends we can run a little less. Non-holiday weekends we get busier. So we get a lot of local people. It's kind of neat. So with that increased number brings more money into us. Now that we've got our handle on our honor boxes and things, there's a lot more money coming in, more people are paying. However, it also brought in a lot more crime. Just to give you an idea of that, in 1 month's time since, say, take May 14th of this year to current, we've already made more arrests and issued more citations than all of 13 total at the lakes, just in 1 month's time. And again, it's not for, oh, you just didn't have your dog on a leash, so here's a citation. That's not it. I mean, you really have to go out there and mess up. For instance, 2 Saturdays ago, I drive down into the park, and there's a group of people with 19-year-old. They're out there playing beer pong, next to the beach with bottles and things, and they think that's okay. And during the time dealing with that, a domestic occurs on the beach over there, and they've got kiddos, and they're out there smoking certain controlled dangerous substances out there in the beach area, thinking that's okay, and a fight just about breaks out on that. So it's interesting, and things, but for the most part, again, the response has been good because I see a lot of moms willing to bring their kiddos out there where that's not been the case before, because they feel like it's safe enough to do that. And so our response as a city has been to improve or increase tourism, patronage, staycations. I recently kind of heard it called, somebody's going to come and stay there for the weekend. And because our lakes offer so many neat things, because the combined total of both those lakes, we can swim, we can hike, we can bike, you can kayak without having a motorboat come and run over you at Guthrie Lake. Fishing's excellent. And yet you can still water ski and tube. We have a couple of professional wakeboarders that routinely go out to Liberty Lake to use that facility. So it's really neat. And I may be preaching to the choir here about telling you how neat of a gem that we have out there. However, and looking at it and saying, hey, what could we do that would make the biggest impact? What I had recommended to the city manager and to you was to add a lake attendant that actually would stay out there at the lake. And that would further decrease crime because you have someone on site all the time. Now, and I'm talking about crime as vandalism. You wouldn't expect necessarily an attendant to go out and take care of, you know, something that they, maybe a uniformed officer needed to take care of, but they can certainly call. And also, so in that would also get us down there as well. So they can sell permits for camping and boating and fishing, because although we're taking in more money in the honor box than ever before, it's still a routine occurrence to hear, gosh, I didn't know there was an honor box, I didn't know I was supposed to pay. Or, you know, when you drive down to the park and I go to this half of the park, it's like a mass exodus from that side of the park to the honor box. Everybody running up because they see you come in, because you're going to check their permit. So they run over to the box and there's a run on that for a while. Also, that lake attendant can explain the rules, because there's a lot of people who says, gosh, I just didn't know. You know, I just didn't know I couldn't do X, Y, or Z. One of the most interesting things out there, though, is that they would be able to maintain a retail store, which we have a lake house out there currently on the property. It's in stages of being repaired right now at this time. It's going to be able to offer a retail store where somebody can go in there and pick up a Coke or a candy bar, you know, get out of the heat for a little bit, sit on the deck, a life vest if they forgot one for one of their kiddos if they're under 13. But and most importantly of all, camping supplies, s'mores. You know, they're going to be offering s'mores and making ability there as well. So that's just kind of and I wanted to be very brief, but that's a synopsis of kind of how things are going out there at this particular time. Going very, very well, and we're moving forward with that. Yes, sir.
Question. So what's the difference between this year and the last couple of years? Why has attendance just skyrocketed?
In talking, and I can make some guesses, because, you know, I like to talk to the patrons out there, and especially the ones that are, say, come from Southwest Oklahoma City. Say, you know, what brought you up here? A lot will say, you know, it's just too crowded at other camping areas. You know, several this weekend said, you know what, we went out to Arcadia, it was packed, we just decided to come up here and give you guys a try. It's great. There's also, at certain times during the week, we'll get a lot of people up, like I said, on the weekdays, and because there's not as many people on the water, and so they like the smoother water for different things. So I would have to say it's kind of we're in that niche where we're not too busy, and yet we've got enough size for them to be able to have fun out there. Also, the horseback riding, we offer unique in that, because 90% of the land around Liberty Lake is undeveloped, so they can ride to their heart's content out there and have a lot of fun. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Would the, probably the lake ranger, I guess, would he go to both lakes or just stay over specifically at Liberty?
Currently, I'm our lake patrol officer. We were going to cut loose 2, but we lost a few to injury and things this time. We're going to have 2 there this year because we really could use it, and we are looking to build that back up. But yes, currently we go back and forth to both.
Okay. I see you out there all the time.
Guthrie Lake is really kind of nice, because the residents out there will call us when there's a problem, and that's excellent, because then, you know, we can make a few passes and that kind of thing, check some permits. But Liberty Lake, for whatever reason, there can be, you know, somebody can be running around with their hair on fire and somebody won't call. I mean, you know, I don't know why that is. I mean, cell phone service works there, and they just don't call. So.
They're getting it on YouTube, huh?
Do you want to talk about Parks Board, Guthrie Lake swimming, and what our plans are there?
Yes. Recently, the Parks Board had given you a request to allow swimming at Guthrie Lake. And that is a really neat thing in a couple of ways. One is that one of the plans were to place buoys out there so that you can actually have open water swimming, but gauge distances in open water swimming. That's something that isn't available in the metro area, which is a really neat thing. So there'll be buoys that will mark, I believe it's 250 meters or 500 meters, which would be excellent. We'll see a lot of triathletes that will come up and train in the area for that. But also, because of just the amount of space is so limited at Liberty Lake, when you get 300 or 400 people there, you literally are just packed in closely, and it's difficult to even find a place to beach your boat or to wait on the dock. So if we could divert some of those people, say, to Mitchell Point, the area around the park or something like that, and designate that as a swimming area, there would be a lot of people that would just like to come over and just to swim, because there's not as many, you know, there's not going to be a 3-year-old that's going to be washed away with the boat tide as it comes by, so to speak.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Item number 3, discussion regarding downtown improvements. Who do we have with that?
Renee,
Renee.
can she say?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you take one of each and pass.
Yeah, again, back in school. Well, I wanted to take just a few moments to bring you all up to date on what's been going on with the Downtown Improvement Commission. And what's going around right now is basically a set of notes, a little outline of things that have been happening, along with a map of the downtown area showing you the location of what the group finally decided was their first choice, an area that they want the city to take a look at. As you recall, the city contracted with a design firm called Latera Studios to help us with developing enhancements specifically in the downtown area. Well, they came up and talked with the Downtown Improvement Committee. It's a group of citizens. I want to say we probably have about 15 or so people that come, and sometimes the numbers grow up and down depending. And they visited with that group. They held a charrette, which is basically a condensed version of intense design work. I would say 3 days worth of this room becoming a studio. They took input from the design committee, discussed everything from basic scope to, okay, let's get down to strategies and locations and what everybody thought, might work in this location, if it would help or hinder certain businesses and so on, and held quite a brainstorming session with the committee. We discussed a number of different concepts, and basically what it came down to was looking at what they called gathering locations, places where citizens and tourists could basically hang out, possibly where a concert could be held, that type of thing. Performance areas, as well as identifying entrance areas into the downtown. And that was something that, as the charrette grew, became something of a focal point that people became more and more interested in. And again, if you look at the map, you can see that the area on Oklahoma, or rather on division between Oklahoma and Harrison, was the area of focus. They looked at a number of different locations, and trust me, the design committee pulled apart every possible location that we could think of. The list is there, different areas on First and Second, intersections at Second and Cleveland, at Second and Harrison, a placemaking location on Second Street. By the end of that week when they were here, the conclusions that the Downtown Improvement Committee came up with was, okay, first of all, we can't do all of this at once. Let's break it down into phases. And they requested that we take a look at phase 1 being a location where we would identify the entrance into the downtown. What really came into prominence from the group was that we needed to share the entrance into the downtown area, as that area that often gets divided on Division Street, things east and west of Division. So they wanted to focus on Division Street so that people would have then the opportunity to pretty much look both ways. That would give us the opportunity to hold certain events, possibly even splitting them up, doing them on both sides, but also creating situations where we could focus on other locations, other events, other retail entities, and basically grow our central business district. So by having this location here on Division, the idea being that could be phase 1, and then eventually, once that area has been fully developed in what the Latera group would do with their design work, expand that so that we then take a look at Division, say from Oklahoma to Harrison. And part of what they were looking at to highlight this area is creating curb extensions to identify different types of design features at those intersections, bringing in a shade canopy within that area, so it does bring in a little bit more of the downtown yet homey feel that people associate with a small downtown area. What a lot of this would do is also to create an area that would be more conducive to walking. We would want to bring things that were focused to pedestrian use, more benches, more places to sit, more items that would encourage people to walk along that path, and then, well, let's walk over a little farther to the next block, because this theme or this design that you see up there on the video, for example, shows, okay, well, if we walk down this green path, and it could be whatever color, of course, but if we walk down there, you see something continuing, something that will lead you on into the next area, lead you on into the next retail phase that you want to look at. So they were looking at the intersection treatment, which is that paving treatment, the shaded space, and then an enhanced mall area, which would be additional paving enhancements on that particular street, more seating. There was even a discussion of something that I think we've all kicked around for a couple of years, and that's been changing the concept and maybe even the name of division and going down that road. So pushing a little forward, if we take a look at phase 1, phase 2 would be to replicate that whole theme so that it spreads throughout the downtown area. And then phase 3, as we apply for more grants, expand the whole concept so that life is how should I say, more fully developed in the downtown, that there's more things to do on your feet downtown, to walk, to enjoy, rather than just becoming a place for cars, but rather a place where everybody can go and enjoy. We talked a lot about what the next steps would be. At this point, we have identified, as a result of our increase in sales, the little boost that we got from Mumford, well, it was more than a little bit, but a good, healthy boost. We want to take a look then at this layout area and define exactly, okay, what type of sidewalk enhancements are we going to put in, what kinds of masonry, for example, the different types of plants. Do we carry on the plantings that we've done with the elms down on Harrison? Once that design is developed, then bring it to the design commission, bring it to you, see what we need to tweak, get that finalized. From that, then develop construction drawings, and then begin that whole process for hiring a contractor, going through the contractor selection process. At the very beginning, when we presented the information to you all initially, when we did the RFQ, they were guesstimating a figure just shy of around 200,000 for this phase 1, and we want to stick with that. But again, we will come to you with firm details and firm figures as we get into the contractor selection process. We will always keep coming back, of course, giving you updates as to what's going on, but this is the latest right now of what we have. So if there's questions,
Questions for Renee?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm kind of confused
Okay.
because ever since I've been on council, we've been talking about developing First Street as a primary, doing exactly this, but with First Street kind of closing it off. We've been talking about it forever. I've never really heard of this. I mean, a lot of traffic goes through Division.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put seating right next to all that heavy traffic. I'm just surprised, because it's just, again, we've been emphasizing this First Street thing. Why Division and not First Street?
I understand, and we wanted the ideas to come forward from the group. They wanted more focus on the area going through the downtown, rather than having an area that, for example, you and I had talked about before, down on First Street, but rather having an area where people would look and say something's really going on here, and they wanted Division to highlight that area where people would pull off, park their car, and walk around. Believe me, over those 3 days, there was a lot of discussion. about it. A lot of pros and cons on each side, and that's the joy of having the group together.
Really, it's kind
And
of
it's
a
a-
hook, isn't it, to,
Yeah, and it truly is. It becomes, division becomes the hook to get everybody to come into the downtown. If we had the point of
The vision.
perspective at Second Street, people might not be aware of what's going on in that downtown area.
So we're gonna have, I mean, I always thought First Street would be a place you can have events. You can't do that on Division.
Oh, no,
I don't
yeah.
care what we
Right,
do
no,
in
that's-
Division.
Yeah, that's, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's not the purpose on Division, to have events. The purpose of what we're doing here is, I'm gonna go back to that term, is to be the hook. It's like, okay, we're sprucing up our Main Street. Come down and take a look down here on First or down here on Second, where we are having the event. If we just had the event on First, people going down Division may not slow down enough to look. This is kind of like that pre-spot where people look and rather than just looking at the light that's down the road, what's going on either side? And a lot of the retailers that we had in the group, that's exactly what they said, was we need something that will grab people's eye when they're going through town, make them slow down and hopefully stop. If they stop, they'll get out of their car, they'll walk by the store, and then they'll hear the music at First Street or
Sounds
Second.
a little bit like the gasoline alley on your way to Bricktown, kind of.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
John, if I can interject, also the funding of 200,000 won't do what you see behind you for a pedestrian plaza yet. What we're looking at is a phased approach. And yes, I can say that a sales tax increase would help fund capital items such as a pedestrian plaza on First Street. The 200,000 won't get us what we want because we did not receive the grant of 460,000. The pedestrian plaza right now isn't in our budget for what we would like to do. What we hope for is a phased approach and eventually do First Street. Right now, 200,000 won't touch what you'd want to do on that First Street. That's also, yes, we all wanted First Street. It came down to a money decision, and I'll say retailers in the area that wanted enhancements on Division.
So it'll help bring business to the 100 and 200 block of Oklahoma. And that could really help everybody, and that could help the tax base for the city as well as
Yeah,
the
sure.
merchants that are there too.
Is there anything inhibiting us from changing the name of Division, actually?
I've got some electrical tape in the car, and we can just,
I mean, we've
Knock
talked
out
about
the
it for
DI.
years.
The only thing you
They
have to
brought it
do
up
is,
again,
the only
they
thing you
wanna
have to do is
change it.
notify the
Notify
post office.
or
Or
a
no
post
docs.
office.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you have to do.
Can we
Actually,
put it
docs.
on the next agenda and just change it or anything? I'd love to see it change.
There's some,
What do you call it?
we have to work with also residents and businesses somewhat. There's some interesting changes to how they have
If we
to
could send
change all
some
their
letters out
bills.
to them and let them know, because they
I would
would
do a
have to
notification
change their
process.
stationery. But according to the post office,
to
you
change all their-
can, they have 2 years to change all their stuff.
Yeah, it
That's
just
a long
seems like
time.
it would be, I mean, we've talked about it for years and years and years.
Okay, let's, we'll do some research. You'll see on July 1st, at least a conversation, if not the documents to do so. But what I always suggest is that you give them time,
Sure, that's fine.
whether it be,
We can change it to errors too, but I don't think everything's gonna go for it.
you're welcome to call your streets whatever you like, basically.
Any other questions for Renee?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Number 4, annual airport update.
Good evening.
I bet he's gonna tell you to do the airport.
Just blowing all my
He's
surprises.
gonna live on that for the next 3 years.
I got a whole year of that. I didn't bring the plaque.
First time ever.
He wears like a belt buckle.
I thought you'd have a t-shirt by now with that on the front of it.
We're they're in the process of being made. So yes, we have had an exciting year. We did get Airport of the Year from the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association for 2014, and Airport Manager of the Year as well. It's based on a few factors.
Who got that? Okay.
It's based on the services that we brought to the airport over the last 3 years, community relations, development, innovation, just kind of the whole gamut and what we're doing with our community, with our airport, and for the community. This year also marks a 10-year anniversary for the being known as Guthrie Regional Airport. In 2004, we came into conjunction with Edmund and start a 50-50 reimbursing partnership for the airport. It's worked out very, very well in the forms of development and being able to expand the airport. If you look back to where we were a decade ago and where we are now, we've just grown exponentially. Being able to grow and have what we do have, we have a very, very unique airport. We've been able to offer many services to the community. Things that we've been able to do are, your standard airport stuff, which we do training, aircraft sales, things like that operate out of our fixed-based operator and Crabtree Aircraft Services. But other things we've been able to do is show movies out at the airport. We've had movies filmed at the airport. We've done photo shoots. The big events for the communities are the fly-ins. Our upcoming fly-in is going to be September 20th this year. We got a lot of great airplanes are planning on coming in, and it should be a fantastic event. And then the Santa fly-ins, which have been a huge hit the last 2 years. Last year we had over 400 kids. Santa was busy for 4 hours straight with nothing but kids. It was just a phenomenal time. They've been able to, it's just been a fun event. You get to see Santa come in, fly in, and then fly back out.
Any special landing gear for those reindeer?
They do. They do. They actually get rid of those ahead of time. Yeah. We had emergency response is another asset that the airport's able to provide for. We have maintained good working effectiveness with the Civil Air Patrol, CAP. They do search and rescue. We've had meta flights come in and out, needing to drop off patients or pick up patients, more rather. And then the firefighting capabilities that has never proved in this most recent Logan County fire that we had. We had 3 Blackhawks, 2 fixed-wing aircraft, and then some other additional helicopters that were either National Guard or News. And it was a big day for the airport in terms of we could see how the fuel sales were going. It was phenomenal. They had shut down the airport actually to all traffic except for official personnel, so anybody who was military or in firefighting capabilities. It was absolutely amazing. Most of the time our airport's just used for economic development, and that happens through tourism. The picture, get my pictures right, the top left picture will be a tourist. That aircraft from Canada, and they came down to America to come to different spots in the States and see what was going on, and they chose Guthrie to land at, and they went into downtown Guthrie. Your top right, that's a medical group from Dallas that came down. They were in there just heading down to an area in between Guthrie and Edmond to be building a medical facility. They came in, they land, they may buy $1,000 worth of fuel, but the economic development is the $10 million building that they're going to build, and then on top of that is what they're going to do with that building. It's just fantastic. The helicopters that we get in are all shapes and sizes. This one happens to be the biggest and one of my favorite. They came in, they were working with oil fields, bringing pieces of equipment into areas that it was just cheaper to fly it in rather than drive it in. And then lastly, we have the Edge 540, which is the aerobatic airplane you see there. That's a local production airplane that is built by Zivco Aeronautics up there at the airport. If you've ever seen the Red Bull Air Races, 75% of the master class races, the big leagues, are all Edge 540s. So and that's Guthrie, Oklahoma, right there in its path, and those go worldwide. Recent projects that we've completed have been our snow equipment, which came in handy more than a few times this year. That was purchased with a 90% grant match from the FAA. The FAA is our friend, they're our partner. They work well in helping us achieve the dreams that we have for the airport and maintain the entire national airport system. Things that we've been able to take on ourselves is trying to help out our revenue by working into an agreement with the FBO for a self-service credit card machine. Currently, our agreement says that we receive a fuel flow fee from the FBO. They're the ones who are out there pumping the fuel. They're doing all the work, but they only work there 6 to 6 hours. They after 6 o'clock, if a pilot lands, they'd have to wait till the next morning or call out for someone to come in and fuel them up. This credit card machine will allow people they can land at midnight, fuel up, and continue on their cross country. And so it's a great service. We've seen increased traffic and increased fuel sales due to this machine. Other projects that we're working on, our main project that's been going on since 2012 that you're very well aware of would be the hangar development area, PAPI rewiring, which are the precision approach path indicators, and reconstruction of taxiway Charlie. Right now, I can tell you that the pappies are complete, hangar development area, the concrete is all laid, we're just waiting repainting of the lines. And Taxiway Charlie is currently obliterated at this point, and they're getting ready to lay the concrete down once they get the final testing in. We should be done with that project in early August, and we'll be very happy to be done with that project. The tenants have been very patient with us as it's taken a long time, and like I said, we're just going to be very pleased to not have to have that on our plate anymore. The project on the top, the odals, those are omnidirectional approach lighting. And what that is, the OAC, Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, contacted us and said, would you be interested in joining in a partnership or in this project? They've contacted 6 other local communities in Oklahoma, and we were fortunate enough to be selected as one. It's a 95% grant written by the FAA, or by the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, for these. It's basically sequence lights leading into the runway. They'll provide visual aids for pilots in weather and in good weather. But it's going to be a great asset to the airport, being able to have those.
Does that mean we're going to get the ILS?
No. When we had the meeting with the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, they told us the ILS was pretty much off the plate, according to the FAA, unless we chose to pay for it ourselves.
Okay.
So rather than spend the $2.5 million, we'd probably put one in. The lighting will allow us to have similar lighting than what an ILS would bring, an instrument landing system. It'll give us the similar lighting, not reduce our instrument minimums, but keep you visually aware.
So it
when you
won't
come
lower
in.
our minimum then?
It won't lower our minimum.
It's more fun to say Pappy anyway.
I know. Future projects that we're working on, Taxiway Charlie, like I said, they obliterated the old asphalt that was just falling apart, milled it out, and graciously donated 4 dump truck loads of that to us at the airport. And we've been working with the contractor. He's pretty much doing it at cost to be able to put in a parking lot for our maintenance vehicles. We're very limited on parking there. And so putting in the maintenance parking lot will allow all the airport vehicles and staff vehicles to park in that area and open up, instead of the mud, and open up the front area for people who are users of the airport. And so we're very excited about that. The Pilot's Lounge we're working on right now. This year we should be doing engineering. Next year it's in the budget for actual construction of the lounge if it's passed in the budget. And looking forward to that. It's another service that we'd be able to offer that attracts more people. It gives them a 24-hour access to the airport, bathroom facilities, and internet, things like that. The OAC projects that may be on the table, we're still awaiting final word, is the crack and seal repair of the runway. We're looking forward to this because it will help us with maintenance, but also repainting of the runway. And then lastly, just kind of looking long-term, we have a taxiway alpha reconstruction and reclaiming 200 feet of our usable runway that is currently inline taxiway. And so it would lengthen our runway to 5,200 feet instead of 5,000 feet. I guess lastly, we have social media out there that we've put a huge campaign on this past year. Facebook is alive and well, and as well as our new airport website. We encourage you to check it out and stay up to date with what's going on at the airport. There's a live webcam shot on the webpage that you can find, and it's just fantastic things. It's facebook.com at Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport and GuthrieEdmondRegionalAirport.com. Long names. Appreciate your support, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Anybody got any questions for the airport manager of the year?
I just want to quickly say that what maybe most of you don't know, if you're not in aviation like I am, is that there are airports all over the country that are closing around. We are expanding and growing, which is kind of a rarity. To be quite honest,
We're running out of space, it looks like, too.
And it's exciting to be a part of a city and municipality that has an airport that is growing, and that's kudos to you and your team. I tell you, that is something that's not to be said all over the country. So.
And not to steal from that thunder, but I wanted to say Justin's ability and his relationship and his fostering of those relationships with the OAC is what is landing us those grants. I don't believe that we could do it without Justin and his FaceTime that he makes himself available to the OAC. And they called us and asked if they could give us money.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
It's good times at the airport.
And this is his entourage.
Yes.
We were able, these are interns, these interns do mow and also provide as our part-time labor, by the way. And so they're able to obtain a great deal of knowledge and help us out as well.
Sweet, I need my airplane washed.
I'm joking. Thank you. Item number 5, discussion regarding agenda items. If I can go first, on the library board, 3 openings, 3 appointment, or 3 applications, Linda Craddock, Verla Range, and Tara Wells. On the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board, Joe Underwood, he's also the chairman of the board right now. I'm going to ask to reappoint him. Forestry Board, Bart Wheeler, he's applied for that position. And we have action regarding 2 appointments of the Citizens Rate and Fee Advisory Committee. You should want to do Dan Newton, all right?
And I've got Andrea Welsh.
Andrea Welsh.
She serves on the Downtown Improvement Committee.
Yeah. Or Andrea, I should say.
Okay. So that's what I have on the agenda items. Anybody else have anything you want to bring up?
There was a request for the dispatch interlocal agreement with Crescent. I see Ed Stanton is here, city manager of Crescent. In your packet, you see the draft agreement. We have decided that two minimum dispatch is what we require to carry out the services for the city of Crescent. I'd be happy if Ed wants to talk a little bit about that. To do so, we're requesting that they pay for the compensation and roll-ups, your FICA, your workers' comp, et cetera. Those 2 employees become employees of the city of Guthrie, and then there's a maintenance charge of $350 on a particular machine that they have to have. For us to carry out the service, we have to keep those municipalities separate through our computer systems, through et cetera, and we're asking for the cost of the 2 dispatchers and the maintenance agreement for that machinery.
Is the amount appropriate?
I believe so. Ed might disagree, maybe, and he's
Can you
welcome.
come talk about it for a second?
Sure. If Ed would like.
As she said, my name's Ed Stanton. I serve the citizens of Crescent as their city manager. Thank the council and mayor and your staff for letting me take a few minutes of your time. I'll just summarize in short what brought us here today. We had several. We had 2 of our dispatchers, one that was seeking a really nice position in a different city that came to fruition. We had one that became a mother and decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so we completely 100% honor that. We knew those things were coming for quite some time, so we began to advertise, and for several months we had received no applications, not even an application for review, which is really not. Which is really something that we see most of the time. A lot of people do not want to drive that far out to work in the city of Crescent. We do pay above peer wages. We have to because of where we're located, so it's not the wages or anything like that. So we just have not been able to staff that department. With that said, I have not been able to craft a sustainable long-term plan for our dispatch department. We serve 1,411 people inside the city limits of Crescent and probably around 3,500 to 3,800 in the surrounding areas in our zip code. We're down to 2 dispatchers. They are really working hard to see us through. What we sought was aid from the city of Guthrie, being you guys are the designated 911 agency for Logan County. You may not know this, a lot of people don't, that our 911 calls come to Guthrie to begin with, and then they are transferred to the city of Crescent. So if you didn't know that, it all starts here to begin with anyway. We typically have about 2,000 calls per year. We rounded that up just as a round number. 3 8-hour shifts per year total 8,760 hours. So basically what we would be adding to your load is about 1/4 of a call per hour on our 911 calls. It'd be about 33.3 hours per year on a typical 911 call. But basically, I think you guys run about 17,345 calls, so we would be adding about 11.53%. to your load that you have now. My understanding was that in our initial meetings that you guys were kind of right there pretty lean in any way, kind of thin. I don't know specifically if that's the truth, but that's the terms that I understood, that two were needed anyway. I understand that. We're bringing 11.53% of the load to your 17,345 calls per year as opposed to our 2,000 calls per year. I don't know, first of all, that we can handle the load of the two added additional staffers for you guys, but I don't know that it's also a fair term, although we're in a corner. I don't know that it's a fair term given the fact that we're just a small percentage of what we're asking for the city of Crescent. We are working towards the tough books as well, so we would not become a burden upon you for traffic calls and such. We would be converting to that. So I talked to the chief today, and I tried to figure this several ways. I figured it like the city of Kingfisher does with Kingfisher 911 when they made their change. They did it on a population basis, and it was so much per person within the 73750 zip code. That number works for us. I also figured it on a per call cost, and that works for us, but I talked to the chief today, and he says that they don't look at it based on the cost of call. They look on it as on a coverage issue, which really works for us. So I'm hoping that we can revisit the numbers. I think the agenda item number 10 is a little bit premature since we really had no agreement to begin with. And the amount on the sheet itself was clearly said that we could not afford that. We're a small town. Our budget looks very different than yours. We're very well managed, very efficient, and run on a surplus just a little bit, but I would entertain any questions. But we really need to attack this, guys, from, first of all, a safety standpoint for our citizens, and second of all, we need to attack this from a percentage of end user value, and the value's just not there for us to pay for the other, 88% of that. So I asked for for any kind of data to substantiate the 68,000, other than they just think it'll take two people to cover our costs. I haven't received that yet. So it boils down to percentages used versus percentages spent in the budget, revenues and expenditures, and we really need to hash those out and work those out before we move any further, because we also figure it based on coverage as well. 2,000 calls, if you guys look at your three full-timers, one part-timer, I guess she's your one of your billing clerks or something that works Friday and Sunday evenings. If you look at that, you guys are handling 17,000 something calls with three full-timers basically, and a part-timer on 2 evenings. We're running 3 shifts and a part-timer for 2,000 calls. So we really do run our dispatch department based on coverage. We have to cover the shifts. The calls that we have are actually less than a 1 dispatcher volume. So I just want you guys to know that we've gone over our numbers, and at this point it doesn't work for us in the budget, and it doesn't work for us as far as a percentage method, as far as us being the end user versus the value. So.
Questions for Ed Stanton?
But what's our budget for that line item?
Oh, for dispatch?
Yeah.
Damon, you'd have to help me, 100,000? Pull my budget book. I'm sorry, I have to pull it for you.
So around 100,000-ish?
You have Shelley that also covers dispatch. Like, I was in dispatch last night at 10 p.m. You got a person at the window, and then I pull in officers. Chief can speak to the operations better than I can. There was an officer answering 911. There's a dispatcher answering 911. Yes, we're lean. We're very lean. I asked my chiefs, we can't pay per call. We pay on coverage just like they do. I can't call somebody in every time we answer 911. But it's not just the 911 calls, and even with tough books, we stay on the phone with people. If someone has an injury in their house, we stay on the phone with them until the ambulance gets there. It's not a call and transfer and hang up. It's a service issue. I can have chief talk to operations. I thought that we could do the service for 1.5 people. I was corrected by the chiefs. We just don't have data to give because we don't do it per call. We do it on how lean we are right now. If we were to take on another municipality, It's also a liability issue. It's, those dispatchers, we're handling 2 separate cities at the same time with 1 dispatcher. 2 dispatchers will give us 80 hours of coverage in addition, which we believe it equals about 80 hours. You just need 2 people. Chief, Deborah?
I'll switch
Oh, yours are
seats
running.
here.
Do you know how much one of these
160,
folks
I'm
make?
sorry, I was on.
160.
Yeah, that's the exact numbers that we put in there. Sorry, 32,000 with roll-ups. So you're talking insurance, FICA. Yeah, that's not overtime. And it's also not our potential insurance increase that we anticipate to find out in August. We watched the city of Purcell go up
We should know by
50%.
August, yeah.
August, we'll know insurance cost, they'll go up.
Well, if we did 1.5 people, that's closer to 50. That might be a better.
I'll let the chiefs explain why we won't do under 2 people.
Well, there's a couple reasons. I mean, number one, we can't predict when the calls are gonna come in. I mean, if we can figure out a timeline that Piedmont and Yukon have an agreement to where Yukon dispatches for them from 4 PM to 8 AM. So it's a lot smaller window. The issue to me isn't calls to service, it's keeping coverage. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts with this. Number one, different radio logs, different report numbers, lots of that stuff. And we look at this on calls to service. That doesn't count the 911 calls that come in that we transfer to other agencies. It doesn't count the hundreds of phone calls where people call wanting to ask a question or run something, by a dispatcher or talk to an officer. I mean, my biggest fear is we've got 1 dispatcher on, stuff happens here, stuff happens in Crescent, and we got 1 dispatcher to take care of 2 municipalities. That's the issue I'm having. If you got 2 different officers from 2 different jurisdictions on a traffic stop, you got 1 dispatcher that's answering a 911 call, he's running names, finds out somebody's wanted for something heinous, and he gets that information mixed up with this person. All of a sudden, this guy's being taken out at gunpoint, and it's a little old lady coming back from Homeland. I mean, those are the things that I see happening, because we do ask a lot of our dispatchers, and since I've been here, we've always talked about, ideally, an extra dispatcher per shift to cover fire, to cover us, and help each other. Well, now we're talking about taking on, 2 more volunteer fire departments, as well as a municipal fire department and police department, and that's just a ton of room for error and for mistakes to be made. And that's why I feel two people minimum. I mean, that's where I said I spoke with Chief Harlow quite a bit about it, and I mean, that's my take. I'll do whatever council directs me to do, but for a safety standpoint, I mean, it's not going to make us perfect. It's not going to make, this is going to create all this free time. It's not going to do it like Yukon. They have a minimum of 3 dispatchers on at any time. That also takes care of Piedmont as well, but there is days they have 4 people on and can absorb Piedmont. We don't have that luxury. In fact, some of his staff said we don't see how you do what you do with only 1 dispatcher.
Now, those 2 dispatchers could be helping us a little bit too, could they not?
Yeah, that'd be cross.
So it seems like we could share with the cost, because I got a feeling if we go 68, we just can't do this. Is there any way we could help share the cost of that? Just a little bit.
I mean, we can put that in the budget for October.
I'm just saying that would make it more, so they could afford it. We gotta get to a point where they can afford it, especially if we're gonna get something out of it as well. That's just what I'm thinking. It's not like 2 and they'll do exclusively Crescent.
No, I mean, it's
because they'll be
gonna-
sitting there with extra time.
Sure.
And it'll help us out because we're short. That's what I'm looking at, because I just don't, it seems like it's a mutually exclusive agreement if they can't do it. Just a thought.
I have a question. It says that Guthrie provides full-service dispatching for Coyle, Woodcrest, Meridian, Orlando, Langston, and Sooner, and that's just the fire department?
Just
That's
fire.
not
Just
anything
Just
else, right?
And we didn't clarify, you may want to talk about full service dispatch versus transferring a call. What we do right now is it's stated in there, we take the original 911 call. If you're in Crescent, you call 911, our dispatchers answer the original call, then it's transferred.
Correct.
But we don't then follow up with them and stay on the phone with them. And you know, I think about Anthony Gibbs, when he goes up to Liberty Lake and you've got 3 individuals in a vehicle, stolen goods, et cetera. Yes, they have a tough book, but they're dealing with this situation, they're radioing it in and not necessarily.
Well, the disadvantage, I mean, we talk about the tough books and stuff like that. We can currently sit in our vehicle and run a tag number. You know, we can check a driver's license, but for us to get the capabilities to dispatch computer to computer, I think Jeremy Thorne got me a priced estimate of like $53,000 per station to actually have a computer dispatch system. So that's probably not
You
gonna
still have a
happen this year.
dispatcher with tough books. I mean, you still have an active dispatcher role. That's the
Would that be something that could be put in a capital improvement plan just to help Guthrie anyway?
53 per vehicle.
No,
Is that
per
on your wish
Workstation.
list?
Oh, psh.
I believe it was. I'd have to look. We put quite a few things on the wish list.
And that's something that would benefit us as well.
Oh, absolutely.
It's on both of our wish lists, because there's certain information, from us from a medical standpoint, we don't want patient information that they may get going over the radio. They can push it through to a computer in the truck and nobody ever sees it, so it
But
protects
right now,
the
we're going
privacy.
through dispatch.
Well, I feel like we need to do something else, Crescent. I mean, I think we need to probably table this and look at trying to come to some agreement.
Because it seems like we could subsidize a little bit since we're getting help, maybe kind of figure out how much help we need, and then how much help they could provide, and
I don't disagree with you, John, but we're also taking on an undue liability. I think that there's some liability that we're absorbing on their behalf.
Can I make a suggestion? What we could do as the city of Crescent too is provide, we could be your catalyst, because you're providing all these part-time services for free. You're entitled to those, to recoup those costs. If I was the designated 911 agency, we would be charging other communities. It would be part of their budget each year. So we could begin to be the catalyst to say, you know, Crescent's paying for services. Whether you're part-time or full-time, well, let's take a percentage then of what Crescent is full-time, and you guys need to begin to build this into your budgets. Then you don't have to subsidize. It should be, but let us be the catalyst for getting all your other communities. Instead of charging us 68, you could charge the other communities 10 apiece, and you'd get far more than 68. So I just think also, if we can't substantiate the number of 68,000, then you guys really need to think about the fact that it may not be enough either. So we got to have firm numbers. We got to know, from Crescent, I have to substantiate to my taxpayers why it's going to cost us and why.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but you're also betting on the come that the other communities have the ability to afford it. You know, I can't guarantee that they have the ability within their budget to afford it.
I haven't looked at Mulhall's budget, but
They're not on it. Mulhall's not on it.
Well, the thing is,
they
we're-
dispatch from Mulhall, so we're taking their,
Oh, I see.
we're also taking that community.
Oh,
This is,
okay, yeah.
I brought you the bare minimum that we could do this without your taxpayers subsidizing another city. This is the minimum that we could come up
But
with.
right now, we don't charge Coyle, Woodcrest, Meridian, or Orlando for anything, right?
We receive from ACOG a small amount of money for being their dispatcher, but it's through ACOG, not through those.
So if you added Crescent, you would receive money from ACOG, and if they were to add Crescent.
They sent me
as
the
well.
breakdown, and they didn't identify Crescent on this spreadsheet. ACOG didn't. I thought that Crescent was coming to us, but on the spreadsheet they sent me Friday, it wasn't on there. I asked for clarification. I
But that
haven't
could
gotten
change if it
clarification.
was- I don't know how much money you get in, but I'm just, if they pay, I would assume that they pay for another entity to be added on, if they're paying for these other guys.
Yeah, it's very, very small, but
Well, yeah, I don't know what it is.
Well, I understand there's a liability issue, and I get that, but in a way, we'd be subsidizing their labor, because they'd be paying 3 times the cost. I calculated 3 times the cost of what they would be hour-wise doing. So we would get some out of that, and it just seems to me that we should at least work with them and try to get the price at least a little bit lower to see what their budget could, create to be sustainable, because otherwise I don't think it's going to happen. But we could use it if let me know if we had plenty of folks on dispatch right now. I wouldn't think let's go forward with this. But it looks like we're a little short, this will help Guthrie out, so it's something we should at least consider.
And I think we've had a request to table it so we can do some more work on this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She
I
did.
did.
Oh, okay.
Let's
Table
do
this.
that, I agree, just table this.
Table the number 10 for the person, so we can do
Y'all
some
will
more
make
work.
the,
And I'll do it, we'll do it up there. All right, and we're down to 5 minutes. Any future items of discussion? We have 5 minutes before we go into city council. We are adjourned.